Hi, this is Carol, and welcome to episode 29 of Speakerman Speaks Retail, where we navigate retail from now to next through my latest retail trajectories and interviews with industry experts who are charting the course. Now, in past episodes, we've talked a lot about how brands are more determined than ever to own their destiny. They want to take control of their brand stories and their customer relationships. So they're doubling down on direct-to-consumer outreach. They're opening branded stores, and they're building these big experiential flagships that are just teeming with technology. Well, my guest has been deeply involved in making these and other physical brand experiences come to life for a diverse portfolio of premier brands like Chanel, Nike, Gap, AT&T, and Ferrari. He founded an on-site digital media company, YCD Multimedia, and prior to that, Netune, which provided network communication services and intranet web apps. Basically, if you visited Times Square and marveled at the massive brand screens or checked out a digital wall at your favorite flagship, chances are he had something to do with it. In 2017, he wrapped all of that retail experience together to create a bold new digital venture, Byond XR. Byond XR is creating immersive virtual commerce journeys for leading brands like Coca-Cola, Calvin Klein, Proctor Gamble, and Target. Experiences that represent a radical departure from the traditional two-dimensional web experiences that we've all gotten used to, but that also bring a new digital twist to traditional flagship stores. So I am thrilled to have Noam Levavi here today to bring not only a much-needed understanding of all the new retail tools and technology that's available right now as we head into 2022, but also to get his perspective on where retail's digital transformation is heading next. So it's so great to have you here, Noam. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Carol. I'm excited to be here.
It's a pleasure. And I think it's really great timing. We've got NRF coming up and CES, and everybody's going to be talking about all the great technology out there and thumbs up and thumbs down. So I know you have a really great perspective, not only on what you guys do, but just on where all of this is headed in general. So I'm really excited to get your perspective. And I think a great place to start right off the bat is to set a baseline on terminology. Even this year, we're hearing so much about all of these terms that are maybe not so new outside of retail, but that have become a real force in retail, like augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality. And now you guys are really putting a stake in the ground on XR, or extended reality. In fact, it's part of your brand. So, Noam, what do you think extended reality really means in relation to all of these other terms we keep hearing about, and specifically as it relates to retail?
Yes, of course. Let's talk terminology and try to maybe eliminate some of the confusion around that. AR, stands for augmented reality. It's basically where virtual information and objects are like overlaid on the real world. And the user is not isolated from the real reality that we're in. VR, which is virtual reality, basically allows user to kind of like fully be immersed in a simulated digital environment. So with the VR, we can replace the surrounding with new virtual spaces that do not exist in our reality. MR, it's like a combination, it's a mixed reality or hybrid reality where basically digital and real world objects can coexist and can interact with each other in real time. So that's for MR. XR, for extended reality, it's basically like an umbrella term that basically used to describe the immersive technology that can merge the physical and virtual world. So where the X represent any current and future immersive technology. That's why we choose XR.
So that allows for more expanded possibilities rather than just all of these individual terms.
Correct. So it's basically these individual terms and, maybe future technologies that we know that the big tech giants and other companies are working on. So X, it's like the X factor, for all the future immersive technology.
Well, good. We need that because things are moving so fast. You have to be able to continue to evolve with it. Let me throw out another term that we're hearing more and more about, the Metaverse. And I think we're hearing a lot about it, obviously, because a certain massive social media platform just changed its name to Meta. But beyond that, how do you define the Metaverse as relates to retail?
I think the Metaverse is like the next evolution of the internet as we know it today. If you think about 40 years ago, we used mainly like text, for communication. Then a decade later, like 30 years ago, we added some graphics and some images. And later some videos and interactive applications. And everything that we've been doing the past, few decades basically is used 2D forms. This hasn't been changed much, in the past few decades. So Metaverse is the next evolution of the internet, which is basically based on an online 3D environment, merging the real world with virtual world. Today, there are like closed garden or islands of like mini metaverses that exist mainly on like online gaming such as Fortnite or Minecraft or Roblox and other social and commerce experiences. Basically, we start to see them all emerge and come in this recent few months. And eventually everything will be connected and there will be one big metaverse that many of the companies, contribute to its foundation and growth. And there will be new devices that will emerge, like headsets and new glasses and bio-wearables and XR contact lenses and brain-machine interface and other surprises that we're going to see in the next few years. And it's only the very beginning of this new metaverse and the potential, how it's going to revolutionize almost every industry, I think, in the next decade.
You described a lot of different possibilities with even just the hardware aspect of it. Do you see all of that playing a role in retail, or do you think it's going to be more curated down, that it's not all appropriate for retail?
So it's not all for retail. I think that we're going to see lots of different verticals and sectors, in different industries are going to join and basically utilize those technologies to create new type of customer experiences and other type of communication. So we focus specifically on retail tech and commerce and how to build the next evolution of commerce. But we're going to see hospitality and entertainment and real estate and education and health and many other type of experiences that we're going to see that companies are utilizing this technology to get a much better immersive type of experiences for their consumers.
Yeah, well, it sounds like just technology in general, it's just following that same trajectory where there are so many options and different sectors, different industries are going to choose the ones that work best for them.
Yes, I think that we're going to see, again, more adoption in the next few years. Our focus is in the retail and basically taking the e-commerce, and we're going to speak about it to the next level. It will be much more immersive. And each company eventually will need to define, their targets and plan and to see how to utilize these technologies in the future.
And when you talk about those immersive experiences, that is really what you specialize in. Can you walk us through how a Byond XR brand experience is different from a typical online shopping experience?
Almost 100% of the online shopping experience today are based on 2D feeds and 2D layouts. We all use these tedious, endless feeds when exploring for different products and do our own discovery. There is no real experience when you shop online today. It might be efficient, when you know what exactly you're looking for, but overall, it's a very a kind of boring and many times very tiring and no real fun, to go and shop online today. If you think about the brick and mortar, the real physical stores, brands spend so much money and efforts to creating and building their own unique physical store experience. Each store is tailored to different local markets and local audience. If you take, for example, the fashion industry, brands like H&M or Zara or Uniqlo or some luxury brands, Dior, Armani or Gucci, each one of these brands develop their stores completely different from the other brands. And in many aspects, like the design and the architectural, the way they organize and present their product, the fixtures, the journey they create for the users, the lighting, the sound, the smell, and many other factors that contribute to a very unique branded experience when you build a store. But when you go online, most of these properties do not exist. And almost all brands, from small ones to the top luxury brands, looks pretty much the same, all using the same long, tedious 2D feeds. And this is where we come to play. So at Byond XR, we are taking the best properties of the physical world and fuse them with the latest commerce and display technology to basically create what we call a Phygital, a fusion of physical and digital. A new type of experiences that also support the omnichannel experiences and how you target your audience both on the real physical stores, but also online, and how you merge it all together. So we provide experiences that feels more like the real world, like realistic 360 virtual store that's easy to navigate and provide a fun product discovery that collaborate in a whole new way.
You mentioned commerce, and one of the things that I found really exciting about the work that you do is that you're not just creating these groovy brand showcases. Your virtual stores also are shoppable, so it's definitely not a case of style over substance. Can you tell me how that part of it works, how the transactions actually take place and that commerce piece of it?
Yes. Basically, our platform, we provide set of commerce tools that allows the creation of a fully operational online store. So it's not just like that nice, pretty face or a fancy showroom. People can actually navigate through the different areas in the store. They can interact with different elements and videos. They can learn about the brands and the product, examine the products in 3D. They can play games. And of course, eventually they can also add to carts. So there is a cart integration where you can add product and eventually complete a purchase in those stores. Basically, we developed a set of APIs and SDK that allows us an easy integration on top of other e-commerce platforms that our brands are using, like Salesforce or Shopify, Magento, BigCommerce, and others. And have the ability to also retrieve real-time information from external data sources like PLM or ERP. So basically, you can take and visualize this data in real time in the store. Like think about like sales performance data or other things that you would like to visualize in real time.
So are the transactions facilitated through the brands themselves, through their platforms, in terms of making purchases from the virtual stores?
Yeah, so the checkout process is basically, we hand it back to the brand. So you can have a whole virtual shopping experience, add products to your cart. But when you want to do the checkout and purchase them, we basically bring you to the checkout page of the destination that depends on the brand. So it's basically integrated in top of their platform, and it's seamless for the user. The user thinks it's part of the destination that they visit. They add things to the cart, they do their completed, they go to checkout process, and the retailer is basically billing them directly.
Well, that's good too, because I'm sure they appreciate that it sends them back to their platform. They're always on board with that. You can't talk about retail these days without talking about the pandemic, and it looks like we're going to be talking about it some more with some of the recent developments. But the pandemic has definitely hit some categories a lot harder than others, and particularly some of those discretionary categories that so many of your customers specialize in that also drive profitability. Categories like apparel and fashion and beauty, which everybody seems to be trying to get into these days. So how do the virtual stores that you create for brands drive sales in these highly profitable categories? But there are also categories that rely a lot on touch and feel, and they don't always translate that well into the digital environment.
Yeah, that's true. But, if you look at the actual figures today, consumer already buy fashion and home products online. Actually, the online shopping percentage, increased dramatically since the pandemic. So it doesn't stop from people to buy products. Indeed, specifically like for fashion, you buy an apparel, different garments, so you want sometimes to feel it. And it's not enough just to see how it might look like on my body, but I want to feel the fabric, etc. So it's not fit for any product or any type of product. But even in fashion, we see like huge increase in online shopping, the past year. And we basically bring another dimension. So the virtual store provide like a new dimension to discover new products and get into a better realistic view of the actual product. Consumer can use also AR for like try-ons and bring like physical object, like think about furniture or tile or countertop, to their own physical home to see how they might look like in their home environment in real size, textures, and color. So this is a very powerful way that user can see the product, not just in a computer-generated photorealistic stage environment, but also using just a smartphone to grab any product, any item, and place it in their physical space.
So it sounds like some of those pandemic-driven trends, including the fact that people are more comfortable buying more categories online, you guys can just kind of ride that wave and make the experience even better.
Yes, and at the end of the day, it's driven by the KPIs that you want to try to improve. So we build experiences around those KPIs that brands are looking to improve. A virtual store can enhance, many of those KPIs, like basket size or conversion or subscription rate, overall sales and others. It's not just, again, a pretty face. Around those KPIs, we build the right type of journey and navigation and making sure that we can improve it as compared to like the traditional 2D feeds that our brands are using today.
Yeah, and speaking of KPIs and sort of the measurement piece of it, one of the advantages to digital shopping is the ability to gather better data and lots of it. And I know you guys are totally all over that piece of the business. So when you look at the data, now that you have some of these big, diverse projects under your belt, and you have, I'm sure, a lot of data that you've collected and been able to look at, is there anything that just surprised you or jumped out as being really directional?
Yeah, so understanding the data is a key basically for a successful deployment. So we've developed a whole analytic engine that track the engagement and basically aggregate all the consumer behavior data in the store, There's so much data today to collect and optimize in a 360 environment as opposed to the regular 2D feeds. It's pretty optimized, in the past 2 decades with all the tools that are available today in the market. The feeds are very optimized. We are only in the beginning of the 3D, like the 360 type of experience. So it's so exciting to see the analysis of this data and to see the customer behavior. The stores are already performing well, but there is still so much room to optimize the experience. And there are a few things that I can highlight. So engagement, obviously, the type of experiences that we create engage customers in a whole, like the brands never saw something like that. So instead of landing on a P2P and spending 20 seconds there, if you land on a pop-up store around like a product or category, we can keep customers for 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 10 minutes, engaged. So thousands of % better engagement, which actually leads to other KPIs improvement. So engagement, this is one key element. We've added gamification features. And we see people are really engaged with gaming. It's really interesting to see different data from different countries. So you see how people behave. We've launched several stores in Japan, for example. And we've seen that there's a lot of Japanese users that really likes those very simple and fun game, 10 seconds to 30 seconds game that eventually you get a reward if you play the game in the store. That they play 100 or 150 times, the same game. And you get the rewards only if you play once. You don't need to play the second time. But what we see a behavior that people are trying to build their own score. So they want to be better and better and they play again and again just because it's a fun game. But what happens is that in the meanwhile, it's all branded games. So you connect better to the brand. It's create new type of emotional connection. So those are the things that we see that drive a lot of traffic and engagement.
Is that gamification aspect translating in other markets too?
So we see that a lot of the big multinational, billion-dollar brands are trying to target the younger audience today. So they rely on their existing customers. Even Gen Y is difficult. Gen Z, it's very challenging for them to reach and win new customers. And part of what we've seen in these virtual stores, that young audience, specifically Gen Z, they all play games. Or I think 90-something% of the population play games today. And it's very intuitive for them to get into kind of gamification type of experience with 60, or they can navigate in their smartphone. So we see much younger audience that come from the social networks Instagram or TikTok. And basically the brands are bringing them back to their own destination because they're bringing a new type of 360 gamified experiences for them.
Great. That's what everybody wants. And I know a lot of these brands, these legacy brands, are really concerned about onboarding new generations of shoppers. So that's awesome to hear. In the introduction, I touched on the fact that a lot of brands are trying to own their brand story, and you guys are definitely enabling that with your virtual stores and helping them build those direct relationships with their customers. But you also work with retailers. Tell us more about how you help retailers, and is there any difference between how you work with retailers versus brands?
Basically, the work that we do with retailers are more B2B, internal use cases that they utilize our platform. There are a couple of use cases like virtual merchandising. Merchandising, it's a whole a business, how you visually organize the merchandising in the stores. This is one of the most influencer on the actual purchasing decision in the store. So it's a very important part of any store. And today, it's very difficult to visualize the store before you merchandise it. So there are a lot of different tools and ways that they work today, and we basically provide them the ability to visualize their store, bring in their fixtures, take in their products, put them in smart templates with placeholders where you can populate them very quickly and eventually get a fully 3D photorealistic view of the store for merchandising purposes. So this is one. We also help them to do client review and basically showcase their products and different lines to potential buyers. So that's the second use case. We have apparel and wholesalers and fashion retailers that basically utilize this to showcase different lines before they choose what to adopt, specifically for buyers to navigate within those fascinating showrooms and to see products in a whole new way.
Is it a stretch to say that there's a sustainable aspect to that too, because you're not maybe making as many samples and maybe you can make more efficient use of physical resources?
Absolutely. I think sustainability is really important today. And we see some big retailers like even Walmart, they're pushing their vendors to go to 3D and used to fly so many people to all the factories in China, and meeting buyers. And basically they changed the way that they do business today. I think it's come from directly from the CEO. It's about sustainability. They want to make sure that everything is more efficient and more sustainable. And they do these type of meetings virtually today and presenting the lines of products all digitally. So there's a lot of aspect on that. And specifically, if you think about fashion, which is one of the worst industry, if you think about sustainability, just creating the samples. If a vendor, let's say a supplier that sells to a retailer like Target or Walmart, sometimes they design 100 or 500 different items just for them to choose a couple of items. So there's a lot of waste here, and going through 3D and basically designing everything virtually saves a lot of not just time and effort and money, but it saves our earth.
And that sounds like that's one of those trends that maybe could be accelerated by the pandemic, but again, just for sustainability reasons, not just from a virtual working relationship standpoint, will continue on and be really attractive. Well, you do work with such diverse companies. That really struck me. Everything from Burger King to Calvin Klein. And I think I just saw that you announced a big partnership with a major CPG company too. And congratulations on that. But how do you collaborate with these very different companies with really different products and different approaches to their business to make their virtual stores the best they can be? And as you pointed out earlier, a lot of these online experiences aren't that differentiated by brand and by category. So how do you parse all that out?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And obviously, we're still learning during this. Basically, we build a very generic commerce platform. It can serve many different companies and different type of products. It's the same tech. It's just about the use case and how you utilize this and how you basically use the technology to build the right type of applications. We do focus on specific markets like beauty and home decoration and fashion. And each category, indeed, they work differently. So we keep learning on how basically to build the right type of environment. With our analytics, we're able to measure the consumer behavior and continue to optimize the store, as I mentioned before. So adding a company like Mondelez, Lacta, that we've just released for them, the first virtual stores in Brazil, that's open for us a new vertical. And we already see amazing engagement there. So there's huge, giant food and beverage and CPG companies that are also looking to create new type of experiences. I can't share too much today about it, but soon we're going to talk about new experiences in this field as well.
Well, that's going to be exciting to watch, and especially in the CPG space where I think everybody's still trying to find their footing in terms of creating digital experiences. You obviously can't have digital outreach without content, and lots of it, and probably lots of different types of content than retailers and brands may be used to working with. So what kind of guidance does ByondXR provide when it comes to content, and are there any best practices on the content front that you can share?
Good content is really the base of any good virtual store. The content is around the product, the feature, the architectural design, the environments, and other type of assets that sometimes required. So brands that already have the 3D assets, so it's much easier. Easy onboarding, you already have, you just need to build the environment. If you don't have it, we guide our customers on how to build it either internally or utilizing their own external agencies that they currently have. But we can also help them basically create the 3D assets and the 3D content if necessary. So it's very flexible. We've been designing retail content for many years now, and we've gained a lot of knowledge, and expertise on that. And we love basically sharing these best practices with our clients. So it's very important, I think, for a successful virtual store and deployment and to maintain it, you have to share those experiences and best practices for the customer to do better.
So you serve as an advisor as well. And it's not just a matter of saying, hey, just get that content that you've always been working with and plug it in. You guys take an active role in advising them as to how to optimize it.
Exactly. So sometimes if you think about the design, they come with a very concrete design. They have their own branded guidelines, and sometimes it doesn't really fit to the e-commerce type or the 360 type of experience. So we have to guide them, and from our experience, we see what works and what doesn't work and what works better. And everything is basically influencing, those the journey and the engagement. It's a lot about the UX and UI and the type of images that you use and the environments around it. So we tend to guide our customers, and as we gain more information from every store, the beautiful thing about it that we measure the analytics, and from every store we learn a little bit more. Every month we have basically more knowledge about how to create better engagement for customers.
Yeah, and I found it really interesting, your background that you came from the physical side of the business, even though, of course, there were lots of digital aspects to the work you did in physical environments. But you now, of course, have a lot of experience in bricks and clicks. And from that vantage point, and again, from a brick and mortar foundation, what are some of the mistakes that you see brands and retailers making in either environment?
Yeah, I spent many years in the physical environments, like in brick and mortars, working with major brands, creating their customer experiences. And obviously, you see also mistakes there. They know much better because they've been in the business for many, many years, those big brands, and they optimize the stores and they have data from different countries. And they learned a lot in the past few years. But basically, the mistakes we can think about, like the navigation in the store. Think about like IKEA, they do a great job taking you through the store, and making sure that you see all the products and buy everything that you need and even things that you didn't thought you're going to need. And it's like an impulse purchase. So product merchandising basically drives some of this performance. So understanding the audience and how to serve the right content for them is really important. I've been doing visuals and music, like digital signage. And we know how the music and the scent, the general fitting in the environment really pushes for people either to stay more or leave. You mentioned like fast food. So fast food, sometimes you want the people just to go buy something and leave the place. And it's a different type of strategy when you think about content than if you want to have someone to keep them as long as they can, because they might put another item in their basket. So there are different type of mistakes that we see. I think one of the challenges for stores, like for physical stores, it's like one fits all. You open a store in a specific city and you have to build it, for the audience around it. It may be more challenging when you have a city like New York. You have a lot of diverse, like different type of audience that come to the store. But when you go online, you don't have those limits. The way that I see it, eventually you can personalize the stores for each user. So the consumer can see exactly the product that they want to see and the colors that they like, and, to be a much more personalized environment than what you see today online.
That's interesting because you think of the digital environments as being customized, but it's really been the reverse. There's a lot more customization in brick and mortar than there is in digital experiences. And it sounds like you're saying there's an opportunity for retailers and brands to look more closely at that and how to customize the digital experiences and not make them so generic.
Yeah, that's totally true. So, for example, we've been working with Lancome the past year, helping them to deploy many virtual stores in like 20 plus countries around the world. And we see, and some of the stores are taking a very unique store experience that they created and then localize it for each market. So by localization, what I mean is not just changing the language, that's obvious, we need, the local language, but changing the environments, the products, the avatars, the social feeds, images that they have, the videos that you incorporate within the store. So basically localize the store to the local audience and local market. And you can even profile different people and basically stream different type of products, different type of experiences based on groups of profiles. You can even personalize it more and more. And eventually I think that we're going to utilize this new type of computing platforms and headsets, and the type of stores that we're going to see in the future will be much more personalized, like for the individual or for the group that are coming to you.
That's so important too for brands like Lancome that are global brands. They have to be able to adapt their brands to those global aspects. And then it sounds like now we have an opportunity to sort of hyper-localize that and then layer on the personalization piece of it. It's exciting.
Yes, absolutely. And we need brands like Lancome that, are very innovative and willing to try these like new type of models and new localizations, and these brands are leading the market. And then we see other brands that follow them when they do successful job.
Yeah, those beauty brands are really the ones that are stepping out. It's exciting to watch. Everybody loves to talk about all the possibilities with technology, but I think we're probably getting to the point where there are so many options out there and there has been so much innovation unleashed that it's just as important to talk about what to eliminate and what not to do. What feels stale to you, Noam? If you were a retailer or a brand right now, what would you not invest in?
Eventually, I think that what we see, that there's a lot of transformation, like digital transformation happen. I mean, it's not new, companies having it for the past decade. But we see an accelerated pace, in the way that they adopt new technology and transform themselves. Now, it's challenging because you have so many different aspects of the business that where do I do or focus my transformation effort? Is it on the logistics and the administration, behind the scene, the infrastructure that I build, the delivery, the online experiences, my e-commerce platform? So there's so many different things. And with limited effort, you need to decide where do you want to put the focus. We help them in one aspect, which basically is how to build, better experiences, better consumer-facing applications. And I think it's really important to drive the future of commerce and to drive their business. But eventually they have to compare this to other challenges that I have in the organization. So I think that more advanced or more innovative companies that have more resources are tapped into this new type of experiences, the e-commerce experiences first. You see other brands that are still in this digital transformation, trying to, deploy a new ERP system or something like that, that it will take more time for them to adopt new type of technologies on top of that.
It's kind of like a spectrum, and you guys in your work have to sort of meet them where they are, I guess.
Yes, we try to. In most cases, it works pretty well. In some cases, we see our brands are not ready for that. Either they don't have the resource or the content. But I think the big brands that we've been working with the past couple of years, they're 30 Fortune 500 brands that we've been working with, they're all pretty much ready because they started this transformation a few years ago. It's not something that they rushed with the pandemic. They already have processes in place and they look at this type of new solution as a new medium for them, new channels to reach customers.
And it sounds like, too, you guys are taking the approach of growing with them. So once they already have that innovation mindset, then you're able to expand with them and also explore new possibilities with them.
Yes, that's part of the fun. So today, brands are using a lot of different channels to reach their customers. They heavily rely also, specifically the past couple of years, on social media. Brands are using today influencers and different type of celebrities, to basically promote their product. So bring in new audience that they couldn't be exposed to. And we see that those new channels, basically the brands invest more and more on this new type of marketing channel as opposed to the regular traditional advertising model that they used to have previously. And it's getting more personalized. And part of what we do, we help them to bring those social feeds and social engagement into their own destinations. This is something really new because the influencers meet their followers on Instagram. And usually the followers stay there and they can like the post or a story and, maybe be engaged and very low percentage sometimes buy something. But what happens then when you take the influencer and bring him into the virtual store and they bring their own followers, they're like a new audience for the brands that can be exposed to their products. And this is a really cool way to kind of engage, younger audience and new type of clients.
That's a really great point, is that these influencer relationships can sometimes be isolated to a single platform, and you have the ability to take those elements that work and that resonate, especially with these younger generations of shoppers, and transport them into these virtual environments.
Yeah, and it's really cool. So we've been doing live streaming in different countries. And we see that even Lancome did a brilliant job with that. So they launched it, let's say, in Hong Kong or Singapore or Japan or South America. And they brought the local influencers that they use anyway, for their marketing campaign. What we did, we brought real figures into the store. So suddenly you can see these influencers talk about a brand, educate you, take you through a very unique journey. And that really changed their state of mind of how to capture a new audience group and, bring in younger generation, to their stores.
That's great. That's exciting. And you've touched on it already and how the pandemic has unleashed a lot of this new innovation and sort of retailers have evolved out of necessity in a lot of cases. But even so, you also talk about how those two-dimensional experiences still tend to dominate online. So do you see retailers and e-tailers radically transforming their existing platforms to meet the challenge? Or do you think that the opportunity has to be addressed outside of their traditional platforms?
Yeah, I think eventually it will be a combination, and I'll try to explain. So we're in a transition period. Brands or retailers are utilizing their own platforms and really good platforms. Think about Salesforce or Shopify or Magento, some of the platforms that we already mentioned. They are not going to drop these platforms. This platform will either evolve to the new world, like to the 3D type of immersive type of experiences. New players will emerge that eventually, the brands will start to use them, I think in conjunction with the current platform that they have. When we're going to see the changes in the computing platform and the new devices that come to the market in the next few years, eventually, we are currently utilizing just the regular two-dimensional screens that we all use, like mobile phone, desktops and iPads. When you talk about the new immersive platforms, headsets and stereoscopic glasses, there will be a new platform to serve these platforms better. And then maybe the brands will change or switch to kind of new players to utilize their own platform. It will be really interesting to see how the existing big giant platform will evolve and get into this.
So it sounds like at least initially it's going to be about just getting the mix right rather than abandoning a platform completely and jumping to another one.
Correct. That's what we see. And we and other platform, we're also not trying to compete with the e-commerce like core platform and the checkout and the billing and the delivery and all of this. We leave to brands and focus only on the experience itself.
You've already sort of touched on the future piece of it, and I think you really are visionary in terms of the way that you see this from a holistic standpoint. And again, not competing with these other platforms, but looking at how they all fit together. But I end every interview with asking just one question that expands on that, and that is, what's next?
I'm very optimistic in general. When you think about these new devices and new emerges technology, it might be scary. People can think and take their imagination to dark places. I'm pretty much optimistic. I think this new type of immersive devices is going to change the way that we communicate, the way that we do our shopping, and many aspects of our life. Eventually, we won't need to fly and to go to physical spaces as we do today. We already see the decrease of it, and it will continue when immersive devices will come. Everything's going to change. So our reality, if today we're going to see those digital experiences through a very narrow spectrum, from our mobile phone, and with the new devices, the reality itself is going to be our screen, like a huge, big screen around us that's going to change the way that we perceive everything and the way that we're going to interact and do our shopping. So it's going to take a few years, as I see it. It's only the beginning, and we see the giants like Facebook and Microsoft and Google and many others that leads this industry. I think in the next year or two, we're going to see major devices coming into the market. We know that already the big companies that I mentioned and many other like Samsung and Alibaba and Magic Leap and other Amazon working on their own platform and devices. Usually, it takes few versions of the devices. So we're probably going to see the second, the third version of those devices. After 5 years, we're going to start to get more and more adoption from people. So it's not only like the gamers and the early adopters, but more and more people will start to utilize and use those devices. We're going to see better content, better applications that serves the market that's really lacking today. And then, there will be a tipping point, a point that we're going to see massive adoption following this. And I think 10 years after that, we're going to see replacement of this device of any other screen that we know, like mobile phones and desktops. And eventually, those devices will disappear, and we're going to create new ways of interact with machines and communicate with each other. So it's really, really exciting.
Yeah, it is. And that's interesting that you're predicting this proliferation of new personal devices. And it sounds like as fast as things are moving, we might even be seeing an explosion of that. You said it going into 2022, next year.
Yeah, we know that. So, everybody's waiting for Apple to release their own device. There's a lot of rumors around it, but people predict that within a year, the end of next year, it's going to be released. And we know that Apple's competitors, they're working on their own platform. They have really good technology, including Microsoft and Google and Facebook. They all build an amazing technology, and it would be really interesting to see how they can compete with each other. And eventually, it's about the combination of a device, the operation system, and the app stores and the content that drive this. So people eventually, we're going to use glasses. So I'm going to use one of the glasses available on the market. So I'm going to use Apple or Facebook or Google or, new companies that will emerge. And on top of that, we're going to see other platforms that bring a new type of content. Those companies, I think there will be a fierce competition in the next few years. They're already spending billions of dollars trying to win in this. They understand this is the next evolution of the internet and the way that we're going to utilize technology. Since some of these companies like Facebook and Google really rely on their revenues that comes from the web, from advertising, the web is going to take a new form. So if they're not going to own it, someone else will own it. So there'll be a really interesting and healthy competition that we're going to see in more platforms, more devices. And hopefully for the user, it will be also better experiences. And those new platforms going to utilize Web 3.0 and blockchain. It will be hopefully more privacy there and new type of challenges that we have today that we're going to see that those companies are trying to solve, or new e-commerce that come to play with.
I love that you're saying instead of focusing on the dark side, as you put it, that you're focusing on the possibilities and the opportunities and the exciting use cases for all of that. And of course, they're all going to be invested in keeping shoppers and consumers in their own ecosystems. So that's going to be some fierce competition. But it sounds like Apple might be the one that opens up the floodgates.
Yeah, I don't know, but they're going to do the move, like a similar move that they did with the iPhone, compared to all the other phones that didn't exist before that. I'm excited. I don't have any useful information about it that I can share here, but I'm waiting like everybody else, to see how their glasses look like. And it's going to take a few years, I think, but I'm pretty sure that in the next year and a half, we're going to see their release.
Awesome. Well, it's been such a great conversation, Noam. I could pick your brain all day and just get your perspective on where all of this is going. There's so much exciting news, but you've done such a great job of just distilling what matters and what the possibilities are. And again, some of those best practices. So thank you so much for being here and congratulations on your success at Byond XR. You've got some amazing companies that you're working with, premier brands. Can't wait to follow your progress and see where things go next.
Thank you so much, Carol. It was a pleasure to be here.
Well, I encourage everyone to visit ByondXR.com. That's BYONDXR.com to check out all the cool stuff they're doing. They've got some really great videos and information. You could spend all day on the Byond XR website looking at all the great things that they're doing. And if you want to reach out to Noam, he is on LinkedIn as Noam. That's Noam Levavi, Levavi. So don't hesitate to reach out to Noam. And on that note, we'll wrap up this episode of Speakerman Speaks Retail. And in future episodes, I'm going to continue to talk with more visionaries like Noam who will help us understand what's really happening in retail. And of course, we'll keep on tracking those retail trajectories. So I hope that you'll listen in every other Tuesday. Usually, we're going to take a little bit of a break and tweak the schedule for the holidays, but we will have some really exciting interviews going into the first of the year and especially on the heels of NRF and CES. And in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm Retail Expert, XPERT. And you can also check my media updates, my speaking engagements at speakermanretail.com. Thanks so much for joining and see you next time.